Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm reviewing the 2006 Cos D'Estournel. So this is a very interesting wine. First of all, it's a second growth wine from the Saint Estephe region. So it's not Saint Estephe. And I always had trouble with the name Cos D'Estournel. I wasn't sure if you should pronounce the S. So I wasn't sure if it's Co or Os, but it's actually Cos and then D'Estournel. So the name is made up of two components. One is the word Cos, which is translated from old Gascon speech, which means a hill of pebbles, and there's actually a hill called Cos on the vineyard site. The other part of this comes from the original owner. So the first owner of this winery was Louis Gaspard d'Estournel, and he gave the name to the estate in founding it in 1811. So one of the unique things about Cos D'Estournel is that when it started out as a winery, it did not go through the negociant system. It sold directly to customers. And much of it was sold to India, which inspired the kind of the Indian looking design or exotic design of the label. Prior to 1855, it was sold to the Charmolue family, which did participate in the negociant system. And I think that was fortunate, because if they had not been in the negociant system and they were just sold to private buyers, they probably would never have been ranked in the 1855 classification. So in the 1855 classification, they were rated as a second growth. And most people do consider them very fine wineries still to this day. The Charmolue family, who bought it prior to the 1855 classification system, also at that time owned Chateau Montrose. They then continued to own it until 1917, when it was purchased by Fernand Ginestet, and then their grandchildren, Jean-Marie Prats, Yves Prats, and Bruno Prats, took over ownership of Cos D'Estournel. In 1995, Cos D'Estournel was one of the first brands to promote wines in China, and Bruno then sold the property to the Merlaut family, who are owners of the Taillan Group, in 1998. 2000, a kind of wealthy individual called Michel Reybier purchased it, and he actually, in a kind of a twist of fate, hired Bruno Prats' son, Jean-Guillaume Prats, to manage the estate. So he managed it for a while, then it changed to another gentleman, Aymeric de Gironde, who managed it till 2017, and then Michel Reybier took back management reins in after 2017. So one of the things that's special about Cos D'Estournel is their cellars. And they were entirely revamped, I think, in about 2009. So their cellars operate entirely on gravity. So there are no pumps. So it's kind of very little intervention, very gentle on the grapes. Now, whether that actually makes a difference, I don't know. But the other thing that people know, or subscribers know, is that I'm very high on these number of vats, because I believe if you don't have enough vats, you can't parcel by parcel vinify, and you can't separate the good wines or the good parcels from the bad. So the more you can separate, the more you can kind of weed out the bad vineyard or plots in a bad vintage. So they have 84 isothermal stainless steel vats, and they are designed for thermal inertia, whatever that means. And they have a wide range of sizes. And the most interesting thing about their winery, or their vats, is that they have wine elevators that replace pumps. So I guess what happens is that the small vats are sent into glass elevators, and they move up one floor, and then they're kind of just released through gravity. Again, I'm not sure what that does, but I think the thinking is that the less human intervention and the less stress that you put on the grapes, the better the quality of the grapes. I don't know. Does that work? I'm not a winemaker, but it sounds like they're you know, have something that's unique. Now, whether unique is better or results in better wines, that's something for the consumer to decide. So the vineyard itself is 56% Cabernet Sauvignon, 40% Merlot, 4% Cabernet Franc, and 1% Petit Verdot. The vineyard is located between Pauillac and Saint-Estephe, fairly close to Chateau Lafite, and it became fully organic in 2024. On average, the vines are about 40 years of age, but they have some very old Merlot plots that date back more than 100 years. They probably have a bit more Merlot than most other left bank vineyards. The vineyard supposedly consists of a complex mosaic of 19 different soil types. And so I guess there's the argument is this diverse array of soils creates the unique characteristic of Cos D'Estournel. They have their fruit is grown close to the Atlantic Ocean in a cool climate, and that's why often Cos D'Estournel would be one of the last properties to be picking in the harvest. So what is the characteristic of Cos D'Estournel? I do find, maybe it's because of the label, that there is some exotic elements to Cos D'Estournel, Asian spice, that also very reminiscent of De Cru Boucailleux. I would say Cos D'Estournel and De Cru Boucailleux are two of the most exotic or Asian spiced wines that you see. And that, you know, could be the label, could be my own, you know, thinking or bias, or could be, you know, that there is something to this because they did start off their market with, you know, sending a lot of their wines to India. So who knows? With the 2006 vintage, this would not be called one of the better vintages. This would be called one of these drinking vintages. Now, I haven't had a lot of 2006 wines, and so it's interesting to kind of taste this. So let's taste the wine. I had this open last night. I had it with a client, and we had it at a nice steakhouse with a nice, I had it with duck. It was fine. It was tasted against a 2007 Haut-Brion, which also is an off vintage. I thought this showed up pretty well. I thought it was actually a little bit lighter than the Haut-Brion, but it firmed up. So let's see how it does today. While I'm filming this video, I can smell this wine. So obviously it's very aromatic. Last night we did decant it, but it did seem a little light, and it took us about a good 2 hours to drink the wine. But you know, it did seem a little light on the light side, but I think it has firmed up a bit overnight. So let's smell it and taste it. So on the smell, yes, it's much more exotic than last night. I think it needed just a little bit of aeration. So I smell a little bit of clay, floral components, black fruit, but yeah, a little bit of exotic nose. I want to say almost a chamomile or almost a perfumed flower. Some exotic spices. It's not like Italian herbs, but more almost, you would say, Indian spices. I want to say cardamom, maybe even cinnamon on the nose. So that kind of, it's a different spice than what you would see with Italian wines. On the taste, first of all, I think this is in its drinking window. I think it's perfect right now. It is getting a little bit of acidity at the end of this, so I don't think you should hold on to this too much longer. I think it'll drink well for the next 5 years, but it's really, I think, drinking at its prime right now. I get some minerality and some real earthiness, and on the palate, on the aftertaste. I get some dark fruit, dark plums, and some exotic elements in the aftertaste. Yeah. So I think this is fully mature. I think you should drink it. Probably 2 hours of aeration would be good, or you can drink it through the night. Yeah, mostly it's dark fruit, exotic spices. The aftertaste has got a little bit of minerality and earthiness. I'm just gonna try to pick up what the Asian spices are and keep on drinking this and trying to figure out what the Asian spice is. I'm trying to think of almost, it's not curry, but I would say it's something like cardamom, maybe paprika. This type of, it's kind of a bland spice, but then there's also some sweetness on it also. But that's kind of where I taste a little bit of it. And almost like a Mexican chocolate, when you know, like when you have kind of a chocolate cocoa with a little bit of chilies in it. That kind of is what it reminds me of. Yes, there's definitely a chocolatey component to the aftertaste also. Nice wine, but really in its drinking window, I don't think you need to wait anymore for this wine. I think the Wine Spectator rating is 92 points. It's about there. It's in anyone's book, I would say, depending on your palate, between 91 and 93 points. I'm going to give it 91 points. Good wine. I would say it's a decent example of the Asian spice or exotic component of Cos D'Estournel. I think there are better vintages out there that taste a little bit more strong, and this is fairly mature for a Cos. So I would say there are better examples of Cos out there that are more prototypical than this wine. So I would say on the scale of Cos wines, this would be on the lighter side of Cos D'Estournel's wines. And also 06 was, you have to remember, before they had their full gravity system in place. So this was a long time ago, and I think Cos has, over the last years, and particularly after 2015, is a much different wine. So it's kind of a historical wine that's interesting to drink. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy drinking.